Hey there, everybody. It's Matt, the Dice Jugger from the Literary Gamers. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Blood of the Fold. This is the third book in Terry Goodkind's Sword of Truth series. Suddenly I forgot the name of the series. I'm going to move this just a little bit over this way so I can try looking in the right area for the camera. So this is an interesting book for me, mainly because when I first read it 5-6 years ago, I think it was, 2015 I read this book. Yeah, when I first read it, I thought it was interesting. Thinking back on it now, I can't tell you a single thing that really stuck out to me with this book. Now, don't get excited. There's a dragon on the cover. The dragon doesn't fit prominently within the book a heck of a lot. This is where a lot of the issues really begin to rear its head in the Sword of Truth series. Now, someone had commented last time about the numerous amount of repetition that happens in Stone of Tears, and it was why they stopped reading. I'm going to be honest with you, that just is a thing with these types of books, in Goodkind's books, I should say, because we get very repetitive all the way through the rest of the series. Now I'm not just talking about Sword of Truth. I'm talking about the Richard and Kaelin series. I'm talking about the Children of Dahara. I'm talking about the Sister Nikki Chronicles. I can't speak for the Law of Nines, and I can't speak for his thrillers, because it almost gets comedically repetitive as when you get here. Now, Richard and Kaelin are still separated, and this is where they faked Kaelin's death at the end of Stone of Tears. This now becomes much more political. Richard is an Eidendrill, and he is now attempting to dissolve the Midlands and absorb them into Dahara as Lord Rahl. We get a lot more of the Mord Sith in this book. The Mord Sith were the ones that were created to protect Lord Rahl, not just Darken Rahl, which was the idea I got from the first book, but apparently it's just Lord Rahl. They have this bond. And it's touched upon in Stone of Tears, but it's much more explained in this one. And when Richard comes in to Eidendrill and he starts gathering the people, he does this thing where it's like, hey, just a heads up, I am the new ruler and you will abide by what I've got, because I've seen the enemy coming from the old world and you don't stand a chance, and so I'm kind of in charge. Now, if there's one thing looking back on this series that I can say, I'm actually not a huge fan of Richard Cypher or Richard Rahl, whichever version you want to talk about him. And it's not that he's a bad protagonist. I think he's a fine protagonist. He solves too much. Out of all the problems in the series, Richard solves around 85% of the problems, and he solves them by repetition. I think in this one, the longest bout was about 30 pages worth of when he was just saying the same stuff over and over and over again. And the subtlety of writing style of just writing a line of, and Richard filled them in to what he had told the previous person, is good enough. You don't need to continually do the whole, I'm going to say it again, and then I'm going to say it again to the next person, and I'm going to say it again to the next person. This really rears its ugly head in Naked Empire, and I can't wait to get there, because that book is universally disliked in the series. But anyway, that's not the point. The point I'm trying to get at is Blood of the Fold. It definitely is a book that moves slowly. It is a book that, like I said, to me is highly forgettable. And what I truly mean by that is this book is the attempt to set up the rest of the series, or at least the initial 11 in the series. Because remember, Sword of Truth was 11 books. And it was only after that he decided to add on the Richard and Kaelin series. And then that was the end of it. Even at the beginning of the last book, it's got a nice dedication to all the fans. But then there's more. Then there's the Children of Dahara. Then there's Sister Nikki. Not Sister Nikki. Nikki, Sister of Darkness. I said Sister Nikki about the books one time, and somebody lost it at me. She's not Sister Nikki anymore. Well, you know who I'm talking about. You don't need to get like that. But we do get some of the Sisters of Darkness in this one. we have a villain, and it's not just Jagong, but who is it? I can't remember who it is. I've got my notes right here. That's what I'm looking down at. We get more of the Mord Sith. What is the name of this guy? If I can't even, to be honest, probably the biggest pervert in all of fantasy literature. And is it Brogan? Tobias Brogan, I think, is the name of the villain. That's throughout the book. It's not the series, but throughout the book. Let's see, plot. But anyway, the main villain that you're looking at throughout this book is got some really interesting takes on, especially, and this is a problem I have with Terry Goodkind's series, is while I do enjoy the overall story, there's definitely a lot of like the sexual terms in this book, and then what happens in that world says a lot about, I think, Terry himself. He's got a lot of problems there, and I think a lot of people have admitted it there. Like, who comes up with this stuff? It's just so sick. Some of it was like, I almost put the series down, because in Blood of the Fold it got really like wacky, and really he's got this way of showing that there's only one way to handle this, there's only one way to handle this, and it gets a little concerning as a reader when you read something like this. Like, what the heck is going on in the author's head? Is it shock value? Are you saying this for the pure value of shock? No, I can't say too much because, Terry's not around to defend himself. He passed away recently, so I'd love to know more about why he wrote something like this. Because if it was for shock value, then yeah, you got the job done. You shocked me, but did it need to be so shocking? Is the other question. So that's the other thing that I've got with this one. The wizard's third rule in this one: passion rules reason. And that's just, these rules really aren't anything more than the theme throughout the story. Eventually, towards the end, Richard and Kaelin reunite, and they have to save the city of Idendril from the oncoming force. Books 3 through 6 are the Emperor Jagong arc, though Jagong doesn't get dealt with until the end of the series. Which end of the series, Matt? We'll just have to keep tuning in to find out. It does come into play the whole idea of the old world being massive. Size and scale are definitely something you see happening here, and they're heightened in the books later to come. The reason that I say that is because even at the end of the series with Nikki and the Children of Dahara, you never get another map. There's a map in here. I'd show it, but I think I might get flagged for copyright for showing the image. But basically, it's just the map of the first book, and it has very little about the old world. Or maybe it's a map from the second book. Who knows? But it was never really grown upon. You just had this map, and that was that. So I do wish, as most fantasy readers often wish, that there was more focus on the map and the world building. There's really not much to say about this book. Like I said, it's an in-between. It is interesting to see kind of I guess you can call this romantic fantasy, right? Because the whole story really is about Richard and Kaelin and their lives together and the forbidden love and how they can overcome the forbidden love. And once they figure out how to overcome the forbidden love, then they have to figure out how to stay together. And they get separated, and they stay separated. The angst. Let's talk about the angst. While people might complain about the angst in a Terry Goodkind book, I actually think he writes it well. And for the pure fact that people complain about it. It's as bad as the sophomoric stuff in Wheel of Time. Maybe we'll get there. I don't know if I want to tackle that again. But those Wheel of Time readers out there know that there's a relationship in there. You could just, not that it was gross, but it was just enough already type of thing. However, What Goodkind does is he is able to. I really want to give him credit here. Is the he does relationships well, both friendships and romantic relationships, and even he can definitely get a decent narrative out of a villain. Um, Back when I first read this, I think I gave it a 3.5. I dropped this one down to a 2.5. I understand its importance in the series, and it has a lot of setup to it, but a lot of that setup could have been put into other books. This book just feels like an in between that could have been more like a novella. The book is long enough to begin with. The um, Not as long as Stone of Tears. Now, in standard hardcover, this book was 600? No, 464 pages. But let me just show you, back in the day, in order to save paper, I mean, that's how tiny the print was. Okay? There are going to be some books in this series I show you later on. You're going to go, wow, are you turning pages every minute and a half? Because that looks like you could just speed read it. And that's not the fault of Goodkind. That's the fault of just modern printing. Print it larger, make more money, right? But here in Blood of the Fold, at least the first 6 books, I believe it's all the same format. So, have you read Blood of the Fold? I don't have a lot to say about it because it's kind of a bit of a nothing burger for me, because it's just an in-between. It sets up some stuff. The stuff is not interesting enough for me to pay attention. We know that the villain is coming. Goodkind is building up the villain. But really, that only comes to a head, I believe, in books 5 and 6. The Wizard's third rule, passion rules reason. That's because Richard makes a lot of decisions in this book with his heart over his head, because there's always that thing. And we'll go over all that when I do my final recap of the whole thing. So, but my big concern is this is where we really begin to see what I call now, when I read fantasy, Richarding the protagonist, which is they know everything, they know how to fix everything. How come no one came to them to figure out how to fix everything? It's basically King Arthur without the love triangle. That's how I would consider Richard. He's too perfect. He's just knowledgeable about how the world moves, how the world thinks. No one knows it like him. And I think, to me, if you can't have 2 or 3 decent main protagonists in your epic fantasy where the series goes over 5 books, then you have a problem. If you're hinging everything on your one character. And that begins to rear its head here in Blood of the Fold. Now, I'm not giving you a lot of big synopses, because if you do want to read the series, I don't want to spoil anything for you. Just keep in mind that with Blood of the Fold, the series does dip a little bit here. It is going to come back up, but this is where you begin to see a lot of the cracks in the storytelling style. I wouldn't say the writing style. The writing style is fine for what it is. Remember, this is 90s fantasy. I believe this is 97. This one came out. He was in like full steam ahead mode at this point. 96. So it wasn't long after Stone of Tears when he had this one done. Now he has a story idea flowing. So everything is moving quickly. So that's going to be it for this week. Next week we're taking a look at Temple of the Winds, which is book 4 in the Sword of Truth series. And then from there, we'll just keep going until we've done all, I think it's 17 or 18 books in this series. It's a lot. Yeah, so if you stick with me, I guarantee you'll have a good time by the time you get to the end of it, at least hearing some opinions on this stuff. I want to cover every book because, like I said last time, there's a lot of readers out there who read Wizard's First Rule. They didn't like it. They thought it was too derivative, and they review it and then they drop it and they never do the rest of the series. I'd like to tackle the whole series. I've done this already on another channel, but that was back when Terry told us that Warheart was the last in the series, and it wasn't. That was a lie. He kept going, which I'm not really a lie. Sorry about that. My voice is cracking. I went through some seasonal allergies, and now I'm just all in the recovery from that. So, thank you for watching this week, everybody. We'll see you next time. Temple of the Winds, Book 4 in the Sword of Truth series. But for now, that's Blood of the Fold, what I call a fairly forgettable but important book in the series. Could you skip it? Probably. but you won't have any idea what's going on for the rest of the time. So see you next time, everybody. Bye.